Hi, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. 1, it's free. 2, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. 3, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. 4, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. And 5, it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Enjoy! Hello, everyone. Welcome to Market or Pitch, the news and trends podcast from a Vantage Black and Brown perspective. I'm Yesenia Reynoso, one half of the squad. And to the opposite end of the spectrum is my good friend, partner, and co-host extraordinaire, Corey Davis.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Hope everyone is doing well.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Marketer Pitch family. Welcome to episode 8, aka volume 20 of season 2. Corey, I think it's safe to say that as we're getting closer and closer to spring, for me, I'm a summer baby. So just dealing with the last weeks of winter just brings nothing but pure smiles in my ears.
Yes. And I like warm weather. I live in Los Angeles, so warm weather to me is all year round. But for me, I prefer more 80s to 90s than 60s to 50s. So yes, I'm looking forward to not only to the springtime and the summer, but also more daylight hours. And if you've noticed that we're starting to see a little more daylight past 5 p.m., which makes me very excited.
Yes, and so as we continuously count down to the eventual return of summer, I just want to update the Marketer Pitch family a couple of housekeeping announcements. For those, if this is your first time listening to the podcast, welcome to our universe. And for those who who have become our regular listeners, thank you so much for coming back. If you're interested in hearing this episode and past episodes, whether it's the remainder of the rest of season 2, tongue twisting, all of season 1, and as well as the intermission series Freestyle, please listen to us. It's available across all major podcasting mediums: YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, etc. We also are available on our YouTube page, so please find us at Marketer Pitch. This podcast airs weekdays on Thursday mornings at 6:30 a.m. on the Helium Radio Network. And finally, we are also available on the Wisdom app. So Wisdom community, I understand, and I promise Corey and I got some exciting plans that we are going to be announcing in due time as to how we're going to make our presence truly felt in the app. So please stay tuned to that. I know it's been a lot of time constraints, but I promise you it's going to be well worth the wait. And finally, if you are not following us on social media, please do so now. We are available across Twitter and Instagram at Marketer Pitch. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit those subscribe buttons. We cannot even beg you enough. It means the world to us. We definitely want to hear your opinions. You are the reason as to why this podcast is up and running. We want to deliver you the best content from a marketing and public relations angle. So please like, share, comment, subscribe across all of our social media channels and our podcasting mediums. And also, if you have a comment, question, or anything whatsoever from a marketing or PR angle that you want to make your voice known, please email us at marketerpitch@gmail.com.
Yes. And I'll just real quickly say, I know before we get into a jam-packed show, that if you have not listened to our last episode, please stop what you're doing. Go back and listen to it. I think it's one of our strongest episodes yet. It's sports themed. It's action-packed. We dive into sports, race, the Olympics. Everything is interconnected. So definitely take a second look if you have second listen if you have listened to it the first time. But yes, please go back to the third episode because it's some very important tips that we offer.
Absolutely, my friend. I can't echo that enough. So if you haven't gotten the chance to listen to our last episode, please do so. It's definitely, I agree with Corey, one of our best episodes yet. So many intersectionality across various societal topics with that marketing and PR spin that I think everybody will truly enjoy. And again, feel free to comment as you see fit. So we ourselves have to quickly dive in because we have a jam-packed show. Obviously, for those who have, again, who have already been accustomed to this format, we'll be introducing you to, we have 3 topics, appetizer, entree, and dessert. The entire season 2 theme revolves around eating at a favorite restaurant or burger joint. And each one of these topics is going to offer our respective spin to it. But we also inject a little bit of spice. So we're going to dive right in. Just to let everybody know, FYI, because today is such a jam-packed show, we're going to be so full that we're going to nix out the dessert part. That's how big of a show that we have today, because these 2 topics single-handedly themselves are pretty much going to be the catalyst of our 2 segments today. So we're going to dive right into the appetizer segment. And obviously, the last episode was our sports theme episode, sports mania. We talked about the Olympics. We talked about the NFL. But there's also one particular sport that we did not get the chance to talk about. But now we do, and it deserves its own spotlight because, Corey, as someone who watches and idolizes the sport, and you do as well, not only for me, this breaks my heart, but it also infuriates me as a fan. And what I'm talking about is the MLB Lockout. Yes, the MLB Lockout, which let's be honest, we all knew this was coming. We all knew that since the 2020 season, when MLB and the Players Association were negotiating that shortened 60-game season during the COVID-19 pandemic, we knew that there was a lot of toxicity and animosity between them. It basically foreshadowed for what was to come. And here we are, where now MLB is experiencing, in my opinion, one of the worst public relations and communications crisis in a very long time, when a sport continues its decline. And to offer a quick little insight as to what's been happening right now. So on December 2nd, 2020, we locked out the Players Association, and since then, the players and as well as the league have been, I don't know in terms of effort, how much of an effort they've been trying to put out there to bargain for a new collective bargaining agreement, also known as the CBA, to no avail. Both sides are far apart, and now we're at a point where where they haven't even had the audacity to negotiate as soon as this lockout was over. But they ended up doing so during the final weeks of January, and then into February. They ended up scheduling a week from the week of the 21st. Spring training was supposed to start in February 16th, but that did not work. And so they ended up bargaining to no avail. And so now back on February 28th, which was the deadline, and they missed it, of course, they ended up canceling games. And the first 2 series of the 22 MLB season are completely canceled. They're not going to be makeup. And so, Corey, I want to bring you into the loop because obviously from a marketing standpoint, this is obviously the very last thing that MLB needs. But I also want to know, just how bad in terms of a reputation this is, because at a time now where NFL is experiencing the biggest popularity, basketball, is making huge waves with its young fan base, and we also are seeing the rise of soccer in MLS, and especially with the World Cup coming up. This is the very last thing baseball needs right now, and as the sport continues to decline in popularity due to the lack of pace of game, the lack of MLB properly marketing its stars, and as well as a whole laundry list of things. And to me personally, I am not a fan of the commissioner. Baseball has seen a decline in recent memory. So Corey, let me bring you in. Offer your opinion. just how
Yeah,
bad this is, because I can't even talking about it just makes my blood boil.
this is nuclear. I, I even hate to say the words. This could be the end of baseball, the MLB as you know it.
Yeah.
As you know, as you talked about, this is the first time in 27 years. And when and there's two issues. I'll get to the lockout later, but the impacts from it, from at least from a marketing, advertising, and PR standpoint of it, when the lockout, when was that? The late 90s, 97,
Yep,
96 was
and
the
that
last
was in
lockout.
1994. 1994.
Sorry, 94. It took MLB 5 to 6 years to recover. I believe
Mm-hmm.
TV ratings were dropped until the late 90s. In my late 90s, that's really is. I remember Sammy Sosa and Mark McGuire. They really helped revitalize MLB at the late 90s. But MLB really did drop ratings. Viewers stopped attending games. Uh, they were severely hurt by the lockout previously, and this is the late 90s, and this is when TV ratings were higher. This is when more fan engagement was higher. Right now, as we're saying, entering the phase where the MLB is already suffering. One, the average age of the MLB is rising and rising. You're not getting newer fans. You have other sports, NBA knocking down the door. You have MLS actually doing well with the younger population. So all these other sports, even hockey has made some strides. So all the other sports are doing well, making strides, and MLB did not need this right now. So I fear that we're already seeing about 2 weeks of the season already canceled. So I know some advertisers have going to have to maybe pull out, and of course they could make these games up depending on how long this goes on. But the impact is already there. I think this season, I think you're going to see half of attendance of games. People are going to be turned off just from the MLB as a whole. And unfortunately, I don't see a way forward. I don't know what's going to be the lever in the future to get people to want to return back to the MLB. So that's my
Uh,
first point. Go ahead.
yeah, you made a very good point about the viewership, Corey, because I wanna point out, just how bad it is, from a baseball standpoint. The fact that Major League Soccer, we already know it's the world sport, is number one worldwide, but here in the United States, it has not been. But over the last several years, we started to see a huge increase in terms of interest for soccer, and it's on its way to eventually overtaking baseball as the third most popular sport in the country. Let me give you a quick little rundown in terms of viewer percentage for each sport. For football, it's 38.8%. For basketball, is 15.3%. Baseball currently is at 14.8%. And soccer, which right now is the fourth most popular sport, is at 8.2%, but it's growing. It's growing in interest, it's growing in engagement, and it's growing in terms of the actual format of the sport. And don't be too surprised that eventually we already seeing experts predicting that soccer will eventually surpass baseball in terms of popularity here in the United States by 2026, when the FIFA World Cup comes to the US. So already, the fact from a reputation and public relations standpoint, baseball already had a problem in terms of marketing its star players. Baseball had a problem in terms of engaging with younger fans, because the sport has, while it's been traditional and it's understandable they want to preserve the history, have been incredibly slow or reluctant to accepting any kind of change to speed up the game whatsoever. So that's number one. Number two, I cannot deal with the with the petty actions of the owners and the players. I am all pro players, no doubt about it, because I'm the kind of person that, from a worker standpoint, we are the reason why this economy continues to run.
Mm-hmm.
Our value means way more than a bunch of billionaires. We're the ones who actually make these billionaires. That's number one. Number two, another reason why the sports is dying is because of greed. Obviously, for the Players Association, they shot themselves in the foot with the fact that they did not demand what they wanted to do in previous CBAs. They basically dropped the ball and allowed the owners to get whatever it is that they want, and now they have all the leverage in the world. And so now, obviously, now you're seeing them pushing their power as they should, because the Players Association folded like a little rock. And so the players, the players are now trying to catch up what they have missed in past CBAs. And so while I understand that the players want to get whatever they want, they also have to be realistic and understanding they're not going to get everything that they want. They got to be able to compromise, at least lay down a foundation, and eventually, start building from the ground up. What exactly do they want in future CBAs? And obviously, for the owners, they're billionaires. They have so much money that they don't need to be starting games on time. But this is catastrophic. In terms of the reputation, this is a huge hit. Many people are going to be turned off. They're not going to be attendance to the to games. It's going to be cut off by half, if not less. Viewership is going to drop, and you have alienated a generation of fans who already have not been interested in the sport. They're going to be even turned off even more. Obviously, the diehards are still going to be there, but the general fans are not going to be coming back.
Yeah, and I think that, and unfortunately, all of this is all due to greed. It's all due to greed. And to play devil's advocate, I definitely understand where the players are coming from as far as we really didn't get into like the crux of this, but it really is what the MLB is calling the luxury tax. It's like the cap, which is preventing players from actually increasing their salary. So I do get their argument is if the ownership revenues are going up year after year, but my salary is going down year after year, something has to give. So I definitely get that, but at the end of the day, like you just said, is greed from both sides is going to wind up with nothing 5 or 6 years down the road when viewership is turned off, TV dollars goes away, advertisers start pulling out, fans start leaving the game. Then what are you left with? You're left with a shell of an organization that was once the greatest pastime of this country.
It's way it the you know the they're out of touch, simply put, Corey. And I find it, you made a quick little pointer about the revenue portion. I find it funny when Rob Manfred did his press conference, and he was saying like, oh, we lost a lot of money, due to the COVID-19 pandemic and so forth and so forth. I just had to laugh because in 2019 and since 2019, MLB made record profits. They, according to Forbes magazine, they approximately in 2019 they made a profit of approximately 17.9 billion. If I'm wrong with those numbers, so somebody please correct that. Um, but uh, but they made record profit, because people were watching the game, plain and simple. And so for us general fans, like, we understand what's going on, but fans don't want to hear it. To them, this is a bunch of battle between millionaires and billionaires, and fighting over cash. Nobody wants to hear it, especially since at a time people are struggling right now. And one last thing before we wrap this up, where in the world was Tony Clark? Where in the world was he? Has he been hiding under a rock or something? If I were the PR person for the Players Association, I would have created a strategy where I would have had either Tony Clark or a major MLB PA spokesperson be on every single outlet that you can think of: CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CBS, ESPN, you name it. I would have had him on every single outlet, every single podcast, talking about the player standpoint as to why they've been on this workout. What is the goal, the purposes, and more importantly, to drive pressure on the league and the owners to get to the negotiating table and actually start negotiating. Because the fact of the matter is that since the lockout began in December, they should have been in negotiations since December 2nd. There was no reason whatsoever as to why they waited this long to actually get on the table. So that right there was also another ball that both the Players Association and the league dropped. But I'm kind of like, Tony, what kind of PR strategy are you trying to pull? If you're trying to win sympathy for your side, you should literally be out there talking to every single outlet and getting your point across, so that way you can drive pressure to the owners, and as well as get yourselves in the bargaining table so you can start laying down the goals that you want to achieve. So I'm at this point. Manfred deserves to be fired. Clark deserves to be fired. But the damage has been done. This is catastrophic. I don't see baseball recovering for this, and this breaks my heart as a baseball fan because I absolutely love the sport. But it also infuriates me because all of this could have been prevented if they would have taken this seriously.
Yes, and we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen over the next month or so. I don't see a resolution coming soon, and we'll see how many more games are canceled. But like I said, just to put a pin on this part, I definitely think that we are could be witnessing the beginning of the end, unfortunately.
All right. So we're definitely going to keep an eye on the MLB lockout because this is a story that, in my opinion, this could be the death. And I really don't want to say it because, again, it will break my heart, but it's definitely worth monitoring. So stay tuned for more updates. We now move on from MLB lockout to Ukraine. And that is our main course for the day for this episode. Obviously, everybody knows what's been everybody. Rephrase that. Obviously, everybody knows what has been happening over in Ukraine. The situation, which every day has been getting much more dire, and also one that, in my opinion, from a marketer and communicator standpoint, needs to have a much closer look. For those who have not been, following as to what what's been going on, Russia, has invaded Ukraine for geopolitical purposes or whatever it is that the country wanted to do. And so we've been seeing a major outpouring of support for Ukraine, and obviously, our thoughts and prayers go out to the people of Ukraine. Hopefully, this will get resolved at the earliest, at the earliest convenience. But Corey, I think what has been so fascinating about this and this entire story, and I think this Los Angeles article has kind of put it out there. The LA Times, I should say, Ukraine is winning, at least in the public relations battle. We have truly seen, you know, Ukraine government officials throughout across national and international outlets, pledging their case and offering their perspective, on the war, trying to win the battle of the narrative. And at a time now where our entire society as a whole has been so heavily narrative based for all the wrong reasons, I find it kind of funny that in terms of their media coverage, with Ukraine and as well as other foreign conflicts such as Afghanistan and Iraq, just how double-sided it has been, and the hypocrisy that we are seeing from these outlets is truly fathomable. But I also have to also say something for marketers and and for PR, and whether it's independent practitioners, in-house or agencies. It's great to see them. They're tiptoeing the situation quite lightly. Offering resources and and so forth and so forth. But again, it's the same thing. If you're going to be talking about Ukraine, then you're going to have to talk about everything else as well. And Corey, I want to bring you into the loop because this is just so fascinating. The double-sidedness, the hypocrisy, just how the propaganda and the censorship has really taken firm control over here. It's truly something to believe.
It is, and I actually will say, uh, I think a lot of brands are playing this correctly. I'm gonna I usually I come on here, I'm like the Grinch. I'm like
Mm-hmm.
curmudgeon about how brand marketing need to be better. But from what I'm seeing, I think brands and just companies are taking the right steps and they're saying the right things, at least from my eyes. We saw that Apple and Nike have announced that they're stopping operations in Russia. You're seeing Airbnb suspend operations. I think it's been announced that Visa and Mastercard are suspending operations. So actually, I'm surprised that companies are stepping up this fast and this
Uh-huh.
quickly, and they're making the right steps.
Yeah.
They are they nor in normal in past you see a lot of companies almost give face value, especially during, as you saw in 2020 with the COVID-19 pandemic, stemming then going to George Floyd and the racial injustice in this country, a lot of companies gave lip. They released an Instagram statement, said a PR statement that, we value diversity in our organization, blah, 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 blah. But they didn't take many actions. A lot of these companies over the past 2 years, from dealing with the pandemic and dealing with George Floyd, they really didn't change anything in their internal organizations. Now you're actually seeing they're putting their money in their mouth is. Apple is not releasing a statement saying we stay with Ukraine. They're stopping selling their products in Russia. Visa and MasterCard didn't release a statement saying that what's happening is a tragedy, devastation. They're suspending their services in the country. And I think that action is what brands should start doing and use this as a blueprint for the future when other injustices are happening in this world. Put your money where your mouth is. If you really do feel a certain way, don't release a statement about it. Release a statement and then do the work. And I think that what we're seeing right now, for the first time I'm seeing in a while, as this humanitarian effort, a lot of these companies are coming together and actually doing the work. And I'm happy with what I'm currently seeing.
I think it's, I have to appreciate the efforts of all of our fellow marketers and communicators, again, working in-house, agency, or freelance, to see the rapid response in terms of awareness, engagement, and more importantly, empathy. It's a sight to see, and I'm happy to see, to see that effort. But I also have to be concerned here as well, because I've always been a communicator that always likes to view things from a global perspective. If you're going to be talking about Ukraine, okay, I get it, but you also need to be then you're basically opening yourself up to to a twofold where you're going to have to talk about foreign issues from other countries. Obviously, and what I'm talking about is if you're going to talk about Ukraine, then you got to talk about Iraq. Then you got to talk about Afghanistan. You got to talk about Syria. You got to talk about Venezuela. You got to talk about Yemen, Libya, all those countries, that whose livelihoods have been destroyed. You also got to give comment to that as well. So like,
Oh, you're opening Pandora's box.
well, that's the thing.
I
That
appreciate it. I appreciate it.
yeah. And that's the thing as well, because if you're going to be commenting on this type of one country, then you got to talk about everybody. And then we talked about this back in our very first episode when we talk about diversity. There's some people who are talking about components of it, but they're not talking the entire sphere. The same thing can be translated here. If you're going to be talking about foreign relations issues, anything that's connected to war or any other, critically important societal issue, then you got to talk about it to everybody. And you also got to talk about accountability as well. Because what we've been seeing, especially on the media front, is that countries are not being accountable for their actions. At a time where there's a lot of victim blaming and victim shaming all around. And I also find it very sad as well, just like, again, the coverage that I've been seeing, a lot, especially from these international reporters who are basically utilizing discriminatory bias against people of color, because they've been so accustomed to see any kind of war on these third world developed countries, but when they see war or anything major in a more, as they call it, in a civilized nation by Ukraine, then they're shocked. And here I am. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, you're not. We're all human. We're all one. We're all equal. We're all on the same level. But again, it goes to shows the how deeply rooted racism is across the world. It's a major disease that continues to plague the way as to how do we shape narratives and perceptions. And it was incredibly heartbreaking to see that take shape.
Yes, and that's see for me. I'm viewing it two different issues, and I totally agree with you on the on your point. And let's put a spade a spade. You didn't say the words, but what you're really saying is from brands and for coverage, it have the same consistency when it's white people versus when it's people of color, and that
Mm-hmm.
really is the crux of everything.
Yeah.
I feel like people who listen to our podcast uh, will can go back and probably deciphered that everything revolves around racism because that really is
It
the
does.
culture of how society has been set up. And
Mm-hmm.
what you said is 100% the case, 100% the truth. Um, but I do want to give these brands at least a kudos for stepping up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you
Now,
have to.
but now, like you just said, we're looking forward to the next injustice. It won't be in Europe. It's going to be in Latin America or Africa or the Middle
Yeah.
East. Are you going to see the same thing? And that's where we want to decide and see.
Absolutely, and that is, that's definitely something to be aware because any kind of global societal issue affects everybody, and so it's incredibly important. While we are in fact seeing, the solidarity and the compassion for Ukraine as it should be, and again, I'm very proud that us as brands and as organizations are stepping up, but I need to see that across the board for everybody. It's all about unity for everyone. There is no point in excluding one group over the other because of some superiority mindset that, in my opinion, should be abolished and completely eliminated. But I also, as well wanna, I also wanna put put an emphasis on this. When it comes to misinformation, I think we are witnessing just how rapidly urgent it is for us to talk about misinformation and censorship, because in a very heavily narrative based society, where right now opinions, if you say something negative or against the main narrative, you're gonna get shut down. You're gonna get shut out. And censorship has been running rampant. It has increased well over the years, and that is a huge concern for me as a communicator, because it's so incredibly important for us to tell the truth, to be factual, even if you do not agree with with that perception. You got to listen to all sides and then develop an opinion on your own. You cannot, and we're seeing a major control of the narrative, where people who are in dissent mode or are against what the mainstream narrative is, they're getting censored, they're being smeared, called out, the worst tricks in the book. And we're seeing, we're seeing it rampant a whole lot more, and that is a major concern, because if you can't be factual, if you can't offer facts, if you cannot offer an opposing opinion, just because you're not in agreement with it, or whatever your opinion is, you're going to be censored out of society. That is clearly wrong. The way to battle censorship is not by shutting people down. It's by opening up the doors for more voices, more people to offer their thoughts and overflow and eventually subdue and or eliminate the negative misinformation and disinformation that's been running rampant. Remember, misinformation spreads 6 times as much, if not more, than positive and factual news. And so it's of the uttermost importance for us to stop with stop with the censorship, and support voices, whether you agree with or disagree with, especially from independent and alternative media outlets, to really make these points out, and have real organic conversations, for us to solve some of the most pressing issues.
Yes, and you could have said it better, and I agree with your sentiment.
All right, we're definitely going to touch more about censorship, because Corey, I think it's a very big topic that must be discussed, because we're seeing it becoming even more rampant, and especially with the 2022 midterm elections coming up. I think that is definitely a topic that needs to be explored much forward, because I cannot express the urgency of this.
Yep, and I look forward to hopefully maybe the season finale. You can of this season, you can get more into it because I agree. There's
Oh.
definitely a larger conversation around censorship to be had.
All right. And so with that wraps up our show of volume 20, aka episode 8. Corey, I told you there was no need for dessert, because these two topics are as huge as they should be.
Yes, and thanks everyone for listening. Today's been action packed, but I think we had a great conversation.
Fabulous. And I want to thank all of our viewers, again, our first timers and our regulars. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget, again, this episode, as well as all previous episodes, are available across major podcasting mediums and our YouTube page. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. Hit and click the subscribe button, and also leave a 5-star review, whether it's on our YouTube page or our podcasting mediums. We definitely want to hear from you. Any comments or questions regarding the MLB lockout, Ukraine, or anything that pops up into your mind, please, we want to hear from you. marketerpitch@gmail.com. Email us. Don't forget as well, this episode will be uploaded later this week, so keep an eye across our social media platforms. Follow us at Twitter and Instagram at Marketer Pitch. With the Wisdom app, we definitely see and hear you. We got big plans coming up, so if you haven't downloaded the Wisdom app, please do so. We're going to be announcing those relatively soon. And finally, Marketer Pitch is live on the Helium Radio Network Thursday mornings at 6:30 a.m. Don't miss it. Corey, any last words?
No. Hope everyone has a great rest of their few weeks and happy spring.
Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will see you at the next episode, Volume 21, aka Episode 9. Signing off. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you later.
Bye, y'all.